Welcome to my show. A guest here. His name is Joseph Steller. Mr. Joseph, how are you doing, sir?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me on your show.
All
How
right,
you doing?
sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. Firstly, you are a recruiter. You are also an author and a speaker. Can you please, sir, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, sir?
Okay, so I'll start with the fact that I did not know what I want to do when I grew up. So I switched careers 9 times and jobs 18 times because I either got bored, and then once I got bored, I quit or got fired until I really found my purpose. And so once I started getting into kind of understanding how, because I've switched jobs so many times, I'm like, wait a minute, there's a lot of people in the world that are having a very hard time getting a job, especially, let's say, new immigrants that come to North America that don't understand and don't know some of the systems. So I basically started volunteering and offering my wisdom and experience to people. In the process, I have written now 12 books on how to find a job, on leadership, on corporate culture, um, on overcoming obstacles. So I've helped 12,000 people land their dream job in as little as 2 days. And then I've also been a recruiter where I've worked with small to global giants like Deloitte and Touche, Apotex Pharmaceuticals, Tata Consulting Services, and many, many other as a generalist in recruiting so that I understand the majority of what is known as white collar professionals.
Wow, that's a very, very huge achievement. Those people now, they will remember Mr. Joseph really, really helped me, to get a job. Thank you so much, sir. And I
Thank you.
can see you've written 11 books. Can you please, sir, discuss more on those books? And are you planning to write more books in the coming future, sir?
So the answer is yes. There's always more books in it. Right now, I'm writing a few books on corporate culture. I'm also writing a book to teach single men how to date in North America because the rules have changed quite a bit. And again, my books are focused on helping people. So whether it's the individual that's looking for a job or companies that are having a lot of turnover are experiencing difficulty with hiring people, um, whether it's just about leadership in general, whether it's about gratitude, whether it's about this. But yeah, um, writing books is one of my creative outlets, and so I enjoy the process and the choosing the right words and so forth for it.
Hmm. All right, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. I would like to dive more on the point of communication. Whether
Mm-hmm.
someone wants to get a job or whether no matter where someone wants to get to, someone has to know how to communicate. Communication is very, very important and is one of the key. I would like to ask Mr. Joseph, what do you think are the key communication skills that employers today value the most in today's job market, sir?
Okay, so Temito, that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. So, first thing I think that we have a very big gap with confidence, attitude. So, if you come to, let's say, a job interview, so please, please, please give me a job, one of two things will happen. One, they won't hire you because you don't have confidence in yourself. Or two, even worse, they will hire you, but they will hire you because they know you're desperate, which means they will pay you next to nothing to do the job because they know you're desperate. So the first thing to do in your communication is to have confidence in who you are, what you bring to the table, what results you will produce. The second thing, and then this just ties into what I said, is most people, when they, let's say, are in a work environment, whether they're applying for a job or asking for a raise, kind of say, hey, I'm really hardworking and I'm dedicated. I deserve a raise. Nobody cares. Let's be honest, okay? It's not about hardworking or dedicated. It's about what are the results that you produce. So, I like to give these two examples because most people laugh at the first example and then they understand the second example. If I say I'm looking to be a receptionist somewhere and I know how to answer the phone, I hope a company responds with, really? A receptionist that knows how to answer the phone? Because unless you live in an igloo, unless you live in a cave, or you are what's called a Christian Mennonite that does not believe in technology, my 2.5-year-old son can press the green button and go, hello, and it's very cute. So there is a level where stop saying that you know how to do something. Give me examples. But if you're trying to be a receptionist and you say, I know how to answer 60 calls a day with 12 different lines, I can measure 60 calls a day with 12 different lines. I cannot measure, I know how to answer the phone. Similarly, if you say to me that you're hardworking, Tamito, how do you define hardworking? Because your definition of hardworking and my definition of hardworking could be very different. So there is a level where you have to look at what is going on that um, needs to change. And so, like, if I compare an accountant during tax season that needs mandatory work 80 hours a week, what's hardworking for an accountant? 100? And I compare that to, let's say, a nurse during the pandemic that had to do a lot of overtime. So if the nurse only worked 4 hours of overtime, does that mean that the nurse is less hardworking than the accountant because she worked less hours? No, because there's different levels of stress, right? So again, in a more solid example, if I say to you, Temito, I'm an excellent salesperson. I know how to do B2B. I know how to do B2C. I know how to do account management. I know how to do lead generation. I know how to do I've worked in retail, I've done door to door sales, I've done car sales, I've worked in private education, I've worked in recruiting. I'm a very good salesperson. All those words are important for the algorithm of Indeed and LinkedIn and Career Builder and Monster and all the other websites to find a job. However, just because I said a lot of words does not automatically make me a good salesperson. However, if I give you an example with results and I say, I worked for a private college that before I came in generated about $530,000 in revenue for the entire year. In 1 month, I was able to generate for them $860,000. Which one would convince you that I'm a good salesperson? All of the words or the example?
Hmm. That's a very, very big question, Mr. Joseph. Thank you so much, sir. And you dive more on this, every single thing a person who wants to seek job, possibly, that common mistake they do, probably begging to get the job and other stuff like that. And some people could be in a position to, think of themselves or to, just have this thought to themselves that how can I just try my best? Is there any way I could improve my communication? Are there strategies or resources I could be doing to just improve this communication skills to be a best person that they could pick for probably a job? I would like to
So
ask Mr. Joseph, what strategies or resources do you probably recommend for candidates who are seeking to improve their communication skills, sir?
So, first thing is there's an organization called Toastmasters, which teaches you the art of public speaking. So, it teaches you how to eliminate filler words like and, like, but when you have nothing to say, but you don't want to hear silence. So Toastmasters also gives you feedback on what you do well and what are areas that you can improve on so that you can catch yourself when you're doing things that might hurt you in the process of looking for a job or just in general, right? So Toastmasters is a great environment. There is also, at least in North America, there's the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers and the American Association of Professional Speakers. There are multiple debate clubs. But even if you go, let's say, just get together as people and start having conversations on topics that you don't know about so that you can find how to have the conversation and how to ask questions. Learn how to ask questions because the more you can ask open ended questions, not yes or no questions, the better. So if somebody asks you an open ended question, you have a different response than yes or no, right? But again, my focus is, especially in the world of job finding, in the world of careers, the conversation needs to be about why do I matter? Why do I produce results? How important are these results to the company, right? So it's not I'm good, but here's the proof. Here's how much responsibility I have because I did X, Y, and Z. I produced this, this, and this. And so again, the conversation, you have to understand, there's not one way to communicate correctly, but there are things that you also need to be aware of. For example, if you're having a face-to-face conversation and someone is leaning in to tell you something, that's usually a sign that whatever they tell you, they think is important. So you should kind of copy them and lean in to listen. Okay, you should practice not speaking in the same tone all the time. So, because if you talk like this all the time, it gets really boring. So, add a little bit of energy or your voice a little bit. So that's called vocal variety and tone and pace. Uh, Learn to pronounce or enunciate your words. Okay, but again, the most important thing in the workforce conversation is not just I can do this and I can learn, but here's how great I am. Here's the results I produce. Here's why, if you hire me, I will make you money, I will save you money, or I will increase your efficiency depending on your profession.
Well said. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. And they used to say something, Mr. Joseph. They will say the company culture. That means probably there's a way maybe the company usually do their stuff. Probably there's a way they probably employ, there's a way they, they do their things. You understand what I'm saying, Mr. Joseph?
Of
I would
course.
like to ask Mr. Joseph, how should candidates adopt their own communication style to align with a company's culture, sir?
Do a little bit of research. There's websites like Glassdoor that people that work for a company can ask questions of what it's like to work there and what their experience is. You can go on LinkedIn and connect with people that are not part of your network and say, hey, you work here. Can you tell me a little bit about the company? Can you tell me a little bit about what's it like to work here? What are the things that they care about? What are the things that um, I should be doing before I come and work here? That's there. Your podcast, Temi Tope, is a great example of how to
Mm.
connect with people and say, hey, can you share about your expertise? Can you share about your genius? Because fundamentally, every human being wants to be appreciated, accepted, and acknowledged, which is why we want love so badly. Because when you're in love, all of those happen a lot. So there's a level where you can kind of learn and say, okay, so if you ask, let's say, an executive, like you message an executive on LinkedIn and say, hey, you're an expert, let's say, in marketing. I would love to have you on my podcast because I want to ask you a question. And start by saying, okay, first question, what made you so successful? Right? Then, if you had to look back at your career, what would you say were your biggest accomplishments or achievements? And then listen and kind of give them credit for what they shared. Say, okay, if you were to mentor somebody, or what would you focus on uh, in mentoring them? Okay, what is your leadership style, right? And so forth and so forth. So, but when you have conversations about them first, they will like you, Demitope. And then when they like you, it's much easier to say, not necessarily give me a job, but hey, you're an expert. I'm also in marketing. would you mind reviewing my resume and giving me feedback? Now, here's the beautiful thing. When they do that, they will actually tell you, they will write the resume that they want to hire. So they will tell you exactly the perfect resume that they want to see in order to hire, which, again, if you do a good job of building the relationship and listening to what they say, after they write your resume, you can say, listen, I've learned so much from you. You're such a great person and you seem like a great leader. I want to work for you. But now the person has already written your resume. So there's a different conversation because you've earned the right to ask for the job after you spend the time getting to know them first, as opposed to just give me a job, which is the mistake that most people make, kind of thing.
Hmm, that's very nice. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. And I would also like to just dive in the point of storytelling. I do
Mm-hmm.
not know if storytelling is something that actually works during interviews, when someone wants to probably get a job, sir. What role do you think storytelling play in communication? And how do you think candidates can use it effectively during interviews, sir?
So again, storytelling is very important, but it's
Okay.
not just telling me a story, right? It's telling me a story with a purpose. So, for example, Temito, do you play any sports?
Sport. Yes, I play football.
Football. Okay, so let's use football. So, if you play football, have you been in a championship team?
I haven't been a championship team.
No. Okay. Have you been the MVP? Have you scored the winning goals? Have you had a season or like what position do you play in football?
Yes, I've had some like I would say assists because I used to play most of the time defense. It's defense I used
Okay,
to
so
play.
you can say, as a defenseman, I had, let's say, 30 assists. So having 30 assists in a defenseman shows the kind of player I am because most defensemen never get an assist or never kind of do this. And then you can relate it to work. So you have to understand, in order for me to get, let's say, 30 assists, I have to train very hard. I have to make sure that I do more than the average person. And because of this, if you hired me, I would do more than every other employee because I want to be the most successful person in this job. I want to produce results that will make you look good. I want to produce results that um, will give you a better bonus. But again, it's not just about football. It's football and then the job that you're talking to. So even though you're starting the conversation about uh, football, it's not about football. It's about how can it relate to the job? How can it relate to what it is that you're trying to achieve uh, as a whole?
Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. And lastly, Mr. Joseph, I know you explain every single thing, when it comes to communication, when it comes to mistake people do make when they are in an interview. But I would just like you to probably, if you could also add on any advice you could give to any candidates or any person who are possibly trying to leverage their communication skills, and probably their humor to stand out in terms of recruitment, sir.
Again, there's a few things that you need to understand. This is a too wide of a question to answer to you in a generic way, Timito, because here's the thing. You also need to look at where you're interviewing. For example, if you go interview for, let's say, Meta or Google, they do a lot of fun things. So there's a lot more flexibility on how creative you are. If you go to an accounting firm, there's less flexibility because it's more professional. So, for example, when you come into the office, give a compliment to the painting or the how the office looks like, how it's painted, how it's organized, because that will create instant rapport. If you go into somebody's office and you see there's a picture of their family, make a compliment about their family, make a compliment about this. Now, there's ways that towards the end of the interview, when the interview asks you, do you have any questions for me? You could ask them good questions. You can ask them questions like, what do you love most about working here? You can ask them questions like, if I were hired tomorrow, what is the first thing I can do to make an immediate impact? You can ask them questions like, what would you say is the biggest obstacle for success in this position? And so you get to kind of build that rapport where you can ask specific questions like, have you ever done this as a company or as a leader? Have you ever, tried this strategy? And again, it's not, but it just shows that you're interested. If you go on the company's website, if you do a Google search or and get information on who they are, what they're about to, if they bought any companies, have they expanded in the last few years, anything like that, that shows that you've taken the time not to just show up and go, okay, hey, I need a job, but that you've done a little bit of homework to see that they will like you, that they'll be excited about speaking to you, that will impress the company a lot. But in terms of humor, in terms of this, like it's very hard because I don't like unless you do research on the person and let's say go on LinkedIn and connect with people that work for the person that's interviewing you and ask them, can you tell me about their personality? Can you tell me what they like, how they manage, and so forth? Jokes can be very dangerous because again, there's a cultural difference in how things are done, right? So, like I for the first 10 years of my life, I grew up in West Africa. I grew up in Cameroon and in Ivory Coast, right? Now, just because I grew up in Cameroon in and Ivory Coast does not mean it's the same culture as Nigeria. Does not mean it's the same culture as South Africa, right? So you have to respect that if you know who the person is and what their cultural background is, you can ask ChatGPT, you can ask this about what are some key things about the culture that you should know. But, you know, you got to make sure that your jokes are work appropriate. There's no sexual content in them. There's nothing that could be considered offensive where you're making fun of other cultures, you're making fun of uh, religion, you're making fun of politics, because those are very, very dangerous topics to have in general.
Yes, I completely agree, Mr. Joseph. Thank you so much for the explanation and the insights, sir. And Mr. Joseph, there's a question I normally ask, sir. From
Yeah.
the ancestors, from the forefathers, there are a lot of things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing will be, sir?
The values, the values of family, the values of kind of direct communication, the values of integrity. We seem to be going the opposite way in terms of actually taking ownership and responsibility and not making excuses, but actually doing things to better ourselves, to grow.
Completely agree. Family is very, very important. It's vital. It's very important in our life today. Due to the times of every struggles and every pressure in the world that we have today. I want to also sincerely thank you, Mr. Joseph, for your time and for the opportunity to speak on communication. People who are still, trying to seek job and giving them the insights and advice they could take to build their point to the point of getting the job in the coming future. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate you having me on your podcast.
All right, so have a wonderful day, sir. Bye bye.
Bye.